When you hear SPUHR, what do you think? I'll tell you what I think. I think something like this. A very tactical, very highly modular, very capable mount. Also very expensive, $350 to $400 typically, but you can get these things in so many different configurations, and they really are top tier. I'm saving this for a gun that maybe I'll be building in the near future. I really hope so. Anyway, this is what I think about when I hear SPUHR. But what happens if you want to try different style SPUHR? Is there even such a thing? Well, as it turns out, it is. They offer a hunting series of mounts, which is not set up like that. I'll actually leave that in frame right there. It's set up for hunting, which, as you might imagine, might be a little bit more streamlined and a little bit lighter than its larger brother. This one has all the specs right there. And I'll tell you, in the box, it doesn't feel like there's much in there. We have little, I don't even know what to call this. I guess we'd call this an owner's manual. Lightweight, modular, dependable, attractive. Ooh, aesthetic hunting mount. Ooh, there's all your information. We got some 7075 sealed hard-coated black anodizing, different screws. At least they're T20s. That's cool. Different torque values. You get really nice stuff when you buy really nice stuff, typically. As far as what this really nice mount is going to cost you, it's actually not that much, about 220 bucks. Now you might be saying, that's a lot of money. And if you're used to buying $20, components, yes, it is. It's 11 times that. But if you're looking to buy something that's made in Sweden, as you can see right there on the bottom of the box, you got to be expected to pay a little bit more. It's not like you're buying something that's made in a gray market and you don't know who's making it or where it's being made. You're buying possibly one of the best mounts money can buy, or at least one of the best manufacturers of mounts money can buy. And I gotta say, this thing is gorgeous. It's also very lightweight. So what does your $220 buy you? It buys you a 4.6 ounce mount. And many of you might be saying, it doesn't seem that light, especially when you just reviewed this UTG cantilever mount. That's less than an ounce heavier. It's 0.8 of an ounce heavier. And this is only like 45 or 50 bucks and made in China. Yes, but that's not the point. The point is, you want to buy something that's special. And when something is special, you got to pay a little bit of a premium for it. Just look at this thing. They talk about this thing being aesthetically pleasing. I would absolutely agree with this. You can see already this thing has been pre-loved, and everything about this thing is to be as lightweight and as beautiful as possible. They didn't have to do these intricate double bevels on top. Absolutely not. These could have just been flat, straight across the top. Probably would have been a little bit lighter, in fact, but they wanted to give this thing an organic look to it, I'd imagine. I mean, just, you really have to look and feel this thing to truly appreciate it. Wonderful. This slot in the bottom is typical of SPUHR. That is their trademark leveling system, very similar to how I use a vernier or a caliper. Put it inside and twist it up. This little ramp, it's a little wedge, you put it in, and it perfectly aligns the scope to the bottom of the mount to make it perfectly perpendicular. And you can see, just look at the detail work on this thing. Yeah, it's nice. However, you can see some machine marks. Those are end mill marks. Those are spring cuts, probably as it's coming back, dwelled, and then came off. Or as it's finishing a cut, it looks like it's getting close to a cut there. It relaxes the end mill, and then it just deflects a little bit, and then it cuts a little bit more on the face. That's exactly what's causing that. You see on the other side. Now the other side's a little bit smaller. In fact, no. This looks like it was a very narrow diameter end mill. Came in like this. Climb milled, came up and out. Whoa, sorry for the autofocus shift there. But nevertheless, it is a beautiful mount. But just because something's beautiful doesn't necessarily mean that's going to work well. What I mean by that is this thing going to be repeatable when we take it on and off of my tracking setup? You can see we have very good positive contact with the pick rail on these little claw sections here, because if it wasn't, these detents, or rather this ghosting from the anodizing being squished from the previous pick rail that this was on, probably wouldn't exist. But you can see they look very even from one side to the next. Starting at the bottom, because that's where most of my mount reviews start, you can see that these claws are set up in such a way that they are super low profile. And the reason for this is probably clearancing for a bolt, a manual bolt. Probably a 90-degree bolt as their maximum. They probably found the fattest, largest swing bolt action they could find and decided to mold off of that. And why not? The last thing you want to have is clearance issues. And I highly doubt we're going to have clearance issues with something that's this slim. And guess what? If you do, you turn it around, because look at how much narrower this section is as opposed to this. Don't look at this surface. Look at the surface between where the end of the pick slot is and the outside of the body. You can see this area is much wider than this area. But nevertheless, this is still quite narrow. This is also the first time I've ever seen a claw such as this, where it actually mounts with the screws at a 45 degree as opposed to perpendicular with the bottom of the mount. This is an all-time first for me. And I'd have to imagine they did it for a number of reasons. One, to keep the weight down, and two, like I said earlier, to keep it as slim profile as possible. Looking at the actual bottom of the claw itself, there's not a whole lot going on with this. Come on, focus. There we go. There's not a whole lot going on with this. We do have a little bit of an area over here where the anodizing has come off. I apologize for the autofocus on this, ladies and gentlemen. Or gentlemen. I think there's a single lady that's watched any of my videos. Model number over there in case you need to reorder this. And recessing for these little tiny ass torque screws. However, beautiful machining, beautiful finish, just as we've come to expect. As far as the mount itself, there are no stainless steel thread certs in this. Again, this is 7075, so it's got a really high tensile strength, unlike 6061, where you absolutely might pull the threads out, especially if you over torque it, or lower grade of aluminum, where you absolutely will strip the threads out if you're uncareful. And this doesn't need it, again, because it's 7075. Look at the attention to detail on these two holes. What are these two holes for, you might be asking? They are the through holes for the mounting of the bottom part of the clamshell. They are through, but then they're also deeply beveled. And that bevel is to prevent any sort of burr building up underneath here and causing an interference with your pick rail. That is something that, if you've watched my most recent mount video, or actually my second most recent, the Warren video, the cap itself actually had burrs on the bottom and were scratching the anodizing on the tube of my Razor HD. So not a fan of the Warren, big fan of the SPUHR. Taking a look at the cap itself, the machining on this so far is beautiful, as is the anodizing finish. And underneath you can see we have some relief cuts in the middle. Another thing to notice is on the corners you can see these nice deep beveled relief cuts, and that is also to prevent pinching on the outside tube when this thing gets torqued down. Moving on to the mount, just like we saw with the bottom over here, the inside gets the exact same sort of relief cut holes. As far as how the mount looks when it's on a rail, well, there you go. It's about as slim profile as you can get. You might be wondering, why is it so far off the edge of your block? Well, that is because to get the tool in here at the right angle when the screw's all the way out, cause a slight interference issue. That's because I have this wide block over here. If you're putting this on an actual gun, you probably won't run into that issue. But it's something that I absolutely ran into. Again, you can see that the side where the claw is not is definitely thinner profile than where the claw is, but it's still very small, all things considered. Now, I don't have this thing torqued down completely, so I'm sure this gap will tighten up a little bit, but it's still pretty slim profile all around. And again, it just got such beautiful lines and curves to it. Let's get a scope in this thing and see if this thing is machined true enough on the base to return to 0 once we take it off. Unfortunately, due to the design of the mounting claws on this, I could not run this in my regular setup to put it on, torque it down, 0 it, take it off, put it back on, and see how well it resets to 0 for all of you. I could put it on a gun, but none of my guns are that accurate, nor am I that accurate to be able to print a group, take this off, put it back on, and see if this is shifted in any significant way, shape, or form. Do I think that this would have a problem resetting to 0? Probably not. It's a SPUHR mount. You buy a SPUHR not just because it looks beautiful and it's made in Sweden and it has all these wonderful accessories, even though this one's fairly stripped down. You buy it because it's really well made and super precise. I have no doubt that this would at least return back to roughly where your zero is, but I'm not going to make the bold claim of saying it will be perfect, because nothing is proven until, well, you have to kind of prove it. And I can't prove it, so I'm not going to make that bold of a claim. However, it must be maintained that this is a hunting mount. It doesn't come with the normal suite of different accessory mounts like the normal SPUHR mounts that we've come so accustomed to on tactical rigs. You can see we have different mounting solutions for whatever sort of accessories you want to run on this, on both caps and on the back side on the flats. So you could run any accessory you want right out the box with one of these. However, these are much heavier, more expensive, and much more cumbersome. This wouldn't look right on a hunting rifle unless you're the type of guy that wants to carry around a 12-pound gun in the woods. I am not, nor are a lot of people that take hunting very seriously. You want something small, sleek, and svelte, such as this mount. And it does at least come with SPUHR's patented, at least I'm pretty sure it's patented, leveling device over here, where it makes leveling your scope a breeze. And guess what? It costs nothing in the weight department on the mount, because it's just a relief on top. If anything, it actually lightens up the mount ever so slightly. If you did want to run an accessory rail on this, you can. You can buy different caps for it and put whatever you want. Offset red dot, little pick rail for, I don't know, a Szechuan sauce holder for McDonald's, whatever the hell you want. But if you also wanted to just keep it stripped down like this, you can. Machining on this is beautiful, with the exception of the couple of the ghost marks that we saw earlier, and that's just a spring pass. It doesn't affect the overall performance of it, but it's beautiful. You buy this thing because you want something that's made in Sweden, something that's svelte, gorgeous, has wonderful lines, lightweight, and probably going to hold perfect zero for you all the time. I said probably because, again, I don't know for sure. But if you think this is too expensive for this mount, you're clearly not the people that SPUHR is after with making a mount such as this. But if you are, I think you'd be quite satisfied with your purchase. Anyway, that is all for this review. Thank you all very much for watching. And as always, see you again next time. And a huge thank you to my Patreon providers and my Subscribe subscribers. Without you, this truly wouldn't be possible. If you'd like to support my channel but don't want to join either of those, I completely understand. But you could still help by using my affiliate links in the description below, and or like, share, and subscribe as always. Again, thank you very much.